swing districts and how that's going to go in 2020?
Well, I think all those members are in a lot of trouble. The key is do Republicans have good candidates? And in many of those districts, we do. So, for example, in California, we have a former member, David Valadao. Polls, he's up by double digits, and that was before impeachment. So I think we've got a lot of great districts that we can win in 2020. And, you know, the problem that they have with this impeachment is that they did not run a fair process. So whenever they say they're running a fair process, it actually means the opposite. We had so many witnesses, and we didn't ask for very many. We asked for about 10 witnesses. They called exactly 0 of our witnesses in. Okay? So how do you have a fair trial? How do you run a real investigation? You know, for all the nonsense that we've heard with these guys, where they moved from the Russia hoax to the Ukraine hoax that then turned into the impeachment hoax, remember, we gave them dozens and dozens and dozens of witnesses when we were in control to try to prove their Russia hoax. And now what do we know? All they did was lie to the American people. Well,
let's talk about some of that. Very interesting report tonight coming out from the FISA court, pushing back against the FBI, essentially saying, you know, don't try this again with us, because by the time it gets to us, we're assuming that what you're putting in front of us is real and is accurate and is substantiated. And now they know that that was not the case at all, that they were given things that had huge holes in them and asked to sign off on them.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the FISC court come out and make a statement. But your viewers need to know that the FISC court is also culpable in this madness also.
How so?
And I say that because we sent them 2 letters, very specific letters. This is probably people are hearing this for the first time. We sent one, I believe, in February of 2018. Warning them of very serious matters, that it was based on the memo that we had put forward. At that time, they did absolutely nothing about it. Then again, when we found out that source 2, the only additional information, okay, that was there, it was essentially the dossier, right, the dirt, it was the fake news stories that they used, and then it was this source 2. Well, we assumed the whole time, we assumed when we wrote the original memo that source 2 was legitimate. But later, Trey Gowdy, who you're going to have on in a little bit, and myself and John Ratcliffe and our investigative team, we began to look at source 2, and we discovered, number one, that they had actually begun spying before they even got the warrant. Yeah. But number 2, they left all of this exculpatory evidence. This is evidence that they should have put forward on both Page and Papadopoulos. And I think Papadopoulos is really key because he's the reason that they started the entire investigation, and he denied it clearly. So at that point, when you have a full-blown CI investigation going on, you should do something. But the point here, Martha, is that the court knew about all this. So I'm not saying that I'm glad they've acted. I'm glad they've said something, but I think the court needs to be ended. The court has to be ended. I mean, this is not.
That's what I was just going to ask you, because tomorrow I'm going to interview the Attorney General, William Barr, and we're going to talk about this. Do you believe that the FISC court should be eliminated, as Andrew Napolitano is also, the judge is also advised on this show?
Yeah, we need a process, okay? So I'm not going to speak in absolutes, but I will say that the way that the courts conducted themselves is totally inappropriate. They ignored clear evidence that we presented to them that remember, they had this. The American people didn't have it. We had seen it. They had it. They did absolutely nothing about it. So they've left, really, Congress no choice but to have to step in and fix this process.
Let me ask you this. Were there particular judges on the FISC court that you feel did not treat this properly?
Well, I mean, look, when you have the evidence that we present to them and they do nothing about it, and now they come out, and I have to look closely at the letter that they sent out today, the statement that they sent out, because I'm not so sure that that they're being entirely truthful, because I've read what we sent them. I just read it a few hours ago, back in the summer of 2018. They had a lot of this information that they claim they just found out about. So I have to look closely at the wording.
Very interesting. All right. Well, yeah, we'd love for you to come back and talk about that some more. You know, when you make that comparison between what they're saying and what you told them and made clear to them back then. I want to ask you one last question with regard to Ukraine, because you talked about, you know, the Russia situation and then Ukraine. Rudy Giuliani, the president's attorney, has been back in Ukraine. He says that he has a lot of information that will prove that there was indeed a Ukraine element to meddling in the election. In fact, he's arguing, I believe, that it was Ukraine and not Russia. He says that he needed to get Yovanovitch out of the way because she was standing in the way of improving the situation there. Do you agree with that? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't think I have not seen Rudy Giuliani say that Russia didn't meddle in the election. It is clear that Russia meddled in this last election, and it's clear that Russia has always meddled in our elections, and Russia will continue to try to meddle in our elections, as will other countries. The key point here is that about Ukraine, there was no question that the Democrats had paid operatives that were getting information out of Ukraine. I mean, you only have to look at Paul Manafort. I mean, Paul Manafort was dirtied up by what was likely disinformation. Now, look, he ended up doing other things wrong, but that initial dirt, that came from Ukraine. We also know that the dossier sources, some of those sources were in Ukraine. So there's no question. I'm not saying that the Ukrainian government had some, not like Putin was doing, but look, they clearly sided on behalf of the Clinton campaign, and they helped to dirty up Trump. I mean, you had the ambassador in Ukraine, in the United States, in Washington, D.C., saying negative things about a presidential candidate, which is almost unheard of. So as it relates to Yovanovitch, the issue there is that there are people there that in Ukraine that want visas to come to the United States so they can present evidence to the appropriate authorities, whether it be Congress or the Department of Justice. And that's the problem. And that's what Rudy Giuliani is saying, that there are people that want to give us information that cannot do it.
Okay. We'll see where it goes. Devin Nunes, thank you very much. Congressman, good to see you tonight.